Welcome to English 4E. This is Term 1B, and we are on Class 13. Today we are looking at assignments K19 and K20, and also an alternate assignment. And I am Jillian Percy. Here are all the ways to contact us. If you want to talk to me while I'm on air in the studio, 1-800-465-7144. If you want to discuss something with me at the office, 1-800-667-3703, extension 2211. As always, if you happen to be in town for medical or for shopping or something, and you want to stop by and see us or work with us, give us a phone call. I'd be happy to put time aside and sit down with you and get some work done. You can fax in work to 1-800-463-7852. You can email me at jillian.percy@nnec.on.ca or jillian.percy@nnecschools.org. My Facebook is capital G, capital P, ERCY, space, capital W, AHSA, if you're looking for it. You can see it right there. It's got like a little fall scene and then a little avatar that sort of kind of looks like me. And then you have two possible YouTube channels if you want to view classes. There's my teacher one, which is the same thing as my Facebook, G Percy Wasa. It has all the courses from this year and all the courses from last year, which can be helpful if you're taking a course that I haven't taught yet. And then down below, you see the Wasa Distance Education YouTube channel. That's the school channel. It has everything we've taught this year from all the different teachers. So if you're taking multiple courses with us, that can be a really useful spot rather than having to bounce around from one teacher's channel to another. If you are handing in work, please send it to studentwork@nnec.on.ca. You can CC me in the email if you want to be doubly safe. Same emails as before. This way the secretary can log that you submitted the work, and it is then in the general computer and can be accessed if need be at another year or by another teacher. Please always include on the assignment your full name, the course name, the assignment name, and number. The secretary is the one logging it, so she's not as familiar. She's got to, keep track of a whole lot of courses. So you're doing us all a favor if you do that. We're required to keep track of everything that comes in, and we've got 700 students, I think. So there's a lot of stuff that comes in. If an assignment asks for both a rough and a good draft, please label which one is which and include them both in the same email. I often compare them to make sure that there's been revisions and changes, and they're often marked differently. So if you hand me an assignment and I don't know, is it supposed to be the rough draft that's worth 10 marks, or is it supposed to be the good draft, which is worth 20 marks? So it's important to let me know. If you need to take a photograph of an assignment, please make sure your photo is clear enough so that your writing can be read. This is especially important if you are using pencil. Pencil is very light and it can be tricky for us to read sometimes. If you are sending it through Facebook, that's great. Send me an email as well, just give me a heads up that you're doing that. Once you've taken the picture, if you're going to email it to me, download it to your phone or computer, save it, and then write me an email and send it as an attachment. If you just sort of share it directly as the email, it's kind of comes very big. It doesn't show properly on the computer because it's meant to go to another phone. And it just looks very funny and it's hard to kind of get sized correctly so that we can easily print it off, right? I don't mark things on the computer. They get printed off and I mark those. All right, our plan for the week. Oh, we were yesterday doing class 12. Today we are doing, class 13. I don't think we actually get here. Hang on a second. I feel like we're somewhere between the two. Okay, we'll see where we're at, but I don't think that's quite right. I feel like that was what it was, but I changed things a little bit. Okay, I got to finish up 19 and work on 20, and I don't think I actually get to 21 today. It's a lot to get through. So you're kind of continuing to work through homophones, confusions in words, edit two passages with an eye for possible misusage, talk about setting visualization and description, and then maybe we'll get to the double negatives, but if not, we'll handle that tomorrow. So activity number 7, assignment 19. Oh, okay, we are doing double negatives. I thought that was tomorrow. Okay, double negatives we get covered. Negative words include no, not, nobody, nothing, none, never, hardly, scarcely, barely, and only. And I have to admit, when I saw this list, I hadn't thought of hardly, scarcely, and barely as being sort of a negative word, but I guess they're really considered that way. So it's kind of important for what we're about to teach. When using while using two negative words in the same sentence is permitted, it gives the opposite meaning to what you may think you're trying to get across. And it's a very awkward way to get across a message to the reader. So we want to try to avoid using a double negative whenever you can. So for this assignment, you're going to look at the sentences below and try to figure out which word is the correct one to avoid a double negative. Now, there were about 20 of these. I didn't include them all. You should have them in your unit. And I'm not going to kind of help you. I'm just going to kind of read it to you so you can see. Basically, they're giving you the sentence, she couldn't eat. And then in brackets, they've put the two words that you can choose. She couldn't eat anything, or she couldn't eat nothing. Which one is correct? So for all 20 of those sentences, you're supposed to circle it and then rewrite the sentence. So I'm going to go back to the very basics just to make sure we're all on the same page. What is a negative? When you're using a negative in a sentence, it's a way to indicate the opposite of what the verb or the adjective would describe as happening. I am finished my book, or I am not finished my book. Mom said I can go to the party. Mom said I cannot go to the party. I'm going to add here adjective, and I would think also adverb. Okay. Some other negative words. Yep, we've got no, not, nobody, nothing, none, never. Yep, hardly, scarcely, barely, and only. So here are some examples in a sentence. And these are fine. This is just one negative, and one negative is fine. There was nobody in the room. He wanted nothing to eat. He never went running at night. He could hardly move after his fall down the stairs. The family had barely any food in the house. There were scarcely any jobs in the Depression. You can pick only one snack to eat on the plate. Negative words are also going to include all the negative contractions, which we're going to talk about on the next slide because they are easy to overlook. It's sort of hidden when it's contraction form, because often what we take out in contraction is the O from the not. So you see the NT, and oftentimes we don't think about the fact that, yeah, well, that stands for not, which is a negative word. So remember that a contraction is when two words are joined together to make a single word with some of the letters missing, and that those letters missing are indicated by an apostrophe, which is like a comma that hangs in the air. So can plus not gets joined to can't. Are plus not gets joined to aren't. Now, those are a type of negative. I cannot lend you $20 or I can't lend you $20. Those mean the same thing, right? Here are some of the other, I'm going to specify negative contractions because they aren't just the contractions. I have other contractions. These are specifically the negative ones, okay? So could plus not equals couldn't, is plus not equals isn't, was plus not equals wasn't, were plus not equals weren't, will plus not equals won't, would plus not equals wouldn't, should plus not equals shouldn't, does plus not equals doesn't. And then over here, we've got do plus not equals don't, did plus not equals didn't, might plus not equals mightn't. You won't see that as often, but it does occur. Must plus not equals mustn't, have plus not equals haven't, has plus not equals hasn't, had plus not equals hadn't, and of course we learned can't and aren't on the previous page. Now, there are a few contractions that are considered, negative contractions that are ones we don't really try to use. There isn't really a contraction for I am not, right? So technically you could use the phrase I amped, but I have to be honest, I have literally never in my entire life heard anyone use that word. What usually happens is people end up using the phrase I ain't. However, that is generally considered non-standard English, which we're going to talk about a little bit, and it's not considered appropriate to use in formal writing or school writing. It is often used casually when speaking, and it can sometimes lead to that double negative issue where you accidentally use two negatives in a sentence. So I ain't never seen John be mean to people. Okay, so ain't's a negative and never is also a negative. Obviously, not all contractions are negatives. There's plenty that are just the normal type of contractions. We've gone over these. Have we gone over this before? I don't think I have in this course. I am equals I'm, I will equals I'll. I had or I would both become I'd. I have becomes I've. She will becomes she'll. She had or she would becomes she'd. She plus is equals she's. And then the other ones would be like they'll, they've, we'll, we've, it's, it'll, he'll, he's, he'd. Should have, I'm putting there because sometimes people think it's should plus have. Sorry, it should plus have is what's correct. Some people incorrectly think it's supposed to be of, okay? But it is definitely not of. It sounds like it though, right? Should of, should have. So remember that these contractions, it's generally either a pronoun plus a verb, or two verbs together, like should plus have, okay? Could plus have is could have, would plus have is would have, and again, it's the VE, not the OV. And then let's is let plus us. Okay, so sometimes when we're talking, we use negatives for emphasis, and we might try and add more negatives to our speech to try to emphasize the concept. Like if I was saying, I am really, really hurt that you said that to me. The really, really is meaning like, oh, I am super, super hurt. I'm really emphasizing it. And so sometimes we do that when we're talking in negatives, like I would not let you go hungry might become I would not never let you go hungry. And the idea is that this person is trying to be really, really sure that you would never be hungry. But in English, the two negatives are said to cancel each other out, right? And when that happens, you end up saying the opposite of what you intended. So in this case, the person is unintentionally saying, I would let you go hungry. So what I was kind of taught, I don't know if they still teach it quite this way, but so not, oops, hang on. Why is it not letting me do this? I'm going to use the black and see if that works better. The not is canceled out by the never. So then what you end up having is, I would let you go hungry. Basically because negatives reverse. They reverse either the verb, usually the verb. Sometimes they might reverse an adjective or an adverb. And then you've reversed it back again. So it's like you've reversed. So that's why they talk about it canceling each other out, and how it can accidentally say the exact opposite of what you intended it to say, okay? Here are some other examples of double negatives in a sentence. I want to point out, this is what they don't want you to do, okay? Now, having said this, if somebody said this to me, I would probably understand what they meant, but in writing, we just don't do it, okay? So no one would never tell the police what you did. I promise you that there was not nothing in that box. She could never scarcely stand to look at him after what he did. There was never no money in the jar when I saw it. That won't do you no good. I didn't take nothing from the till. My boyfriend didn't never run around on me. He's not going nowhere. So if I want to fix a double negative, what can I do? Sometimes it's just as simple as taking away the second negative. So if I say, he never caused me no harm, I could just take away the no. He never caused me harm. That's totally correct. I haven't never heard of him. Leave the haven't. This one, they took away the haven't. I never heard of him instead of the haven't. So they took away one of the negatives. She wouldn't never harm no one. She wouldn't harm anyone. So no one is kind of a negative, so they change it into anyone. So that's one way you can correct the double negatives. The second way you can correct the double negatives is to change that extra negative into a neutral word, or sometimes it's thought of as a positive word. So nowhere could get turned into anywhere or somewhere. No one could get turned into anyone or someone. Nothing could get turned into anything or something. Never could get turned into ever. None could turn into any or some or even one. And no can get turned into any. So if I want to fix, he is never stealing nothing from me, I could change nothing into anything, right? And say, he is never stealing anything from me. So then at that point, I don't know if you guys can hear that, my little thing fell. Ouch. That's very painful. All right, hang on a second. All right. He is never stealing anything from me. So here, then, oh, why is it letting me do that? Yeah, it's fine. Here, the never is canceling out the nothing. So if I change nothing to anything, then I only have the one negative, and then that one is fine. This one we're not supposed to use. I don't have no drugs on me. So don't is a negative, and no is a negative. So they are crossing each other out. So I could change the no to any. I don't have any drugs on me. And that way I only have one negative left, which is correct. Now, the final way to correct double negatives is get rid of that negative contraction. It's usually a contraction that you're not noticing, right? So if I said, I can't never get my taxes right, let me grab it again. Here I've got, I don't know why it's not wanting to let me. Let me try the red. Okay. I can't and never are cancel each other out. But if I just get rid of can't and turn it into can, I can never get my taxes right. And that's totally right. Okay, I just took away the negative part of the contraction and just left the original word. She shouldn't hardly trust him. Shouldn't is should plus not. So take away the not and just turn it into should. And now I only have the one negative. She should hardly trust him. Because remember, hardly, barely, and scarcely are all considered a type of negative. I won't eat nowhere that makes you wait to get a table. So won't is one of those tricky contractions. Won't is made up of will plus not. So if I just leave the will and get rid of the not, I can still leave the nowhere then. I will eat nowhere that makes you wait to get a table. Now, I want to point out there isn't, like, I'm showing you multiple ways to do it because more than one way is right. If I had wanted to, okay, let me see if it'll let me do this. No, hang on. Okay. I could also have said, I won't eat anywhere, right? Dot, dot, dot. So that one I changed the nowhere to anywhere. Either way is correct. There isn't only one way to do it. As long as you get rid of that second negative, and then you're fine. Okay. So they specifically ask us to choose the right format and then rewrite the sentence with the correct word. Here are some examples. He couldn't see nothing, or he couldn't see anything without his glasses. So I've already got one negative, double negative here, couldn't. So if one of these is a negative, I don't want to use that. I want to use the other one. Okay. So nothing is considered a negative. So I want to use anything. So I circle that and then I rewrite it. He couldn't see anything without his glasses. Then I've got the hiker could not find no or any way to get through the woods. So not is already a negative, so I don't want to have no again, so I'm going to be using any. The hiker could not find any way to get through the woods, so that works. So here I haven't given you kind of the two ones to choose. It's a little bit harder. What are the ways that we could fix these double negatives? The first thing always is to find the double negatives, right? So I'm just going to kind of go through real quick and find the double negatives, just because it's so much easier once you've seen that part. Can't and never, not and scarcely, didn't and nothing, can't and nothing, won't and no, can't and nowhere, couldn't and never. So now I get to choose which one do I want to fix. I can't never remember your phone number. This one would be easy enough to fix by just writing can, right? Just take away the negative and turn it into a positive. Mom cannot scarcely get the cooking done these days. I would just take away the not. Mom can scarcely get the cooking done these days. That's fine. She didn't see nothing wrong in what she did. This one, I would probably change it to anything. She didn't see anything wrong in what she did. Sorry, a little bit harder this way. My little brother can't do nothing right. So I would take away the can't and turn it into can. I could have left the can't and turned nothing into anything. Either way fixes the problem. That won't do you no good. That will do you no good. Eddie can't find his tools nowhere. I don't like Eddie can find his tool knows where. I know it's technically okay, but I don't like it actually. I would actually change this to anywhere. It just sounds better to me. I don't know. I don't know if you guys notice a difference, or is that just my own little weirdness? All right. She couldn't never find her purse. I would just take away never. She couldn't find her purse, and that works. Okay. Double negatives are sometimes used in conversation, in certain regional dialects, or by speakers from specific heritages. And the fact that it gets corrected sometimes for writing, sometimes this has caused kind of resentment or anger or upset, because people feel like when you're doing that, you're saying that their kind of version or dialect of English isn't good enough. And the whole idea that there's a standardized English really bothers some people. And when I say the phrase standard English, that generally refers to the written forms of the language and is the type of English taught in schools. Now, it is not necessarily supposed to affect how people talk. It's more about writing. And that's one reason why it doesn't bother me as much, because most people, even if they grew up speaking English, don't consistently speak standard English. We all make grammatical mistakes, and that's fine. But some people feel that teaching standard English makes people from certain heritages feel that the way they speak is being looked down on. Having said that, one key reason why I do think it's important to teach and use standard English is for us to be able to maintain understanding of written material across different times, countries, and cultures. For example, I've visited parts of the United States where I could not understand what people were telling to me because their dialect was different, the words they were using, the accent was so strong. But if I had picked up a newspaper, I could have easily read the newspaper and understood what was happening because they used what's called standard English. So for this reason, I do feel that knowing standard English for writing is useful and helpful, which is why I teach it. The other thing, and it's one of the reasons we talk about like not using slang in school writing, is slang generally changes every generation. Every new generation of teenagers creates their own slang. If we consistently used slang overly in shows, books, school, what's going to happen is that in about 5 to 10 years, it's out of date and you're going to have to rewrite everything. And it would create a problem in terms of we would not be able to easily read or access older things. That's one of the reasons why I say Shakespeare is so hard to read, is because it's got so many words that we don't use the same way anymore. So that's my reason. Okay, number 7. Number 7 is assignment 20 plus an alternate assignment. So when this course was originally written, I don't think media studies was as big a thing, but media studies is kind of important, and I need to start putting media studies in some of this course. So I'm choosing some of these last grammatical assignments to change into some media studies. So if you have the original assignment, that's fine. I'm totally cool with you handing that in. However, probably by the end of this week or next week, the course from here on out will have the newer assignment that meets the new criteria. Okay, so that's why I'm kind of covering both in the class. So whichever version you have, you've got access to know how to do it. So yeah, we talked earlier about homonyms or homophones. Those are words that sound alike but are spelled differently and have different meanings. And many people will get these confused because often it's just spelled differently. So the exercise below is meant to help clear up those kind of problems. First of all, you're going to read 2 different passages, A and B, and they each have 10 mistakes in them. And they want you to find the word that has been misused and identify what word you should use instead to make the sentence correct. There is a chart given after the passages. They want you to underline or circle the mistakes and then fill in the chart with here's what was wrong, here's what's right. They've numbered the sentences so it's a little easier to find them. Let me show you the chart. Oh, I'm not there yet. Marking, each correction is worth half a mark. There are 10 mistakes in each passage, and if you correctly identify the right word in a passage, then that is worth 5 marks. If you correctly identify the right word, okay. So you get half a point. Make sense, hopefully? Okay. So here we go. So what they've done is you'll read the passage. There is a little number here for the sentence. Then you write down what word you found what that was incorrect, and then tell me what the correct word is. So here's our very first sentence from passage A. Did you know that until May 5th of every year, you're not really working for yourself? So if you're looking at that, which word is, they've not used the right homophone, they've used the wrong one. Okay, it is this one, the one that's your. Can I make it underline? Okay. So, yeah, your. How should I be spelling that instead? Right? It is the right like sound, but that's not how I would spell it because your is a possessive form. I want the ones you and are, like, because I'm talking about how they're working. You apostrophe re. You're not really working. Oops, sorry, hang on a second. So then that would just go right here, this whole thing, okay? Here are the passages. Did you know that until May 5th of every year, you're not really working for yourself? A group in Ottawa, Ontario has learned that it takes workers an average of 4 months and 4 days to earn enough to pay their taxes. The group found in its study that taxes eat up 34% of all the income in this country. So if workers used their entire income for taxes, they would not be through paying them until May 5th. Being that May 5th is the first day people really work for themselves, the study group has some advice. It would like a bill passed naming May 5th Tax Freedom Day. On that day, you would give yourself a break, irregardless of how hard you worked. For from May 5th on, you would finally be your own boss. So if you see all those little numbers in front of the words, I know it's a little bit confusing. It's just telling you this is sentence number 4, this is sentence number 5, that kind of thing, just so people can identify which sentence we're looking at. Now, passage number B is, did you ever daydream about writing your life story? Do you think that your life is too dull or you can't write? Anyone's life story is filled with fascinating events, and writing them down in the best way you know can give you a sense of accomplishment and perhaps leave a valuable inheritance to your family. The first thing to do is to buy a loose leaf notebook. Each page of the book should be titled with a significant milestone in your life, from your first dog to your proudest moment. You should then jot down a few key words in the book whenever a memory comes back to you. The idea is not to begin with, I was born, and try to write a chronological history of your whole life. Just delve into your past at random. One memory will trigger another. It will become quite easy after a while. It's also important to write in your own language. Plain, honest writing is the goal. So, let's say I've identified what word I think is wrong. How can I figure out what word is right? First, check the chart. It should be in the beginning of your Unit 1 that has commonly misused words, okay? These are some of the ones they talk about. It's possessive. A bull moose is known for its aggression in the fall versus it's a contraction. It's a beautiful sunny day. Lose, gone missing. When did you lose your necklace? Or loose, like it's not contained, it's detached. The little boy's sneaker laces have come loose. Than, by comparison, I am older than my sister. Or then, a sequence in time. First we went out for dinner, then we went to the movies. The other one that's really common is there, and there. For ERE is at that place. EIR is possessive, like it belongs to them. They plus RE, apostrophe RE is the contraction of they and are. Whose, WHOSE is possessive. Whose books are these? Whose, WHO apostrophe S, is a short form of who is. Who is going to the store with me? Your possessive, have you received your money? Versus your YOU apostrophe RE, which is a short form or contraction for you're a wonderful friend. What if the word I need to fix is not on that list? For example, in science, the importance of cause and effect cannot be understated. One place you can check is the dictionary under the word effect. When I checked the dictionary, it had this explanation under the main entries, explaining this commonly confused word. Basically, they understand that people get these two mixed up. So when you go to look it up, they've got this little note there so you know which one to use. And it explains everything. Effect and affect are often confused because of their similar spelling and pronunciation. The verb affect, entry number 2, usually has to do with pretense. She affected a cheery disposition despite feeling down. The more common verb, affect, entry 1, denotes or means having an effect or influence. The weather affected everyone's mood. So they're saying that there's two different meanings, right? But the verb effect goes beyond mere influence. It refers to the actual achievement of a final result. The new administration hopes to effect a peace settlement. There's also an uncommon noun called affect, which is sometimes mistaken for the very common effect. In ordinary use, unless you're talking about psychology, you're going to want effect. Affect is a word that a psychiatrist might use to talk about what emotion your face is expressing, but it's really a medical word. It's not one we use in everyday language. So someone was waiting for the new law to take effect. They mean the effect. I'm pronouncing them differently to get the idea across. Effect with the E. Or the weather had an effect on everyone's mood. Generally, we kind of say it sort of this slurry sound somewhere between the E and the A, which is why it's so hard to tell which one you're supposed to be using, right? Because they sound the same. Now, the dictionary is not going to have a paragraph on every possible word mix-up. Another place to check is a thesaurus. So here we look at this sample sentence. The protesters were standing up for the principle of equal rights for all people. Now, I can look up the word principle in the thesaurus to see if the synonyms it suggests has the same meaning that I think principle has. And the thesaurus also has articles about commonly confused words. So here, there's two possibilities. Principle with an A or principle with an LE. And then if you go into the article, it explains the difference. Principle with AL is an adjective meaning the most important. As a noun, it refers to somebody in a leading position at the school. Principle, PLE, can only be a noun, and it means a fundamental truth, a code, a quality that motivates your behavior. The phrase I was taught as a kid is always remember principal. The principal is your pal, right? So the guy in charge of the school, PAL, is your pal. When I was reading this, I realized I didn't want to be talking about the principle. I wanted the idea of a fundamental truth, which means I need the one that's spelled PLE. So the adverbs can also help. The thesaurus can also help you. Okay, so moving on. This is an alternate or the new assignment for number 20. We've had a lot of grammar assignments, and I kind of thought we might be ready for something a little bit different. It's also designed to give you a bit of a head start on the culminating activity for Unit 1, which comes up in about 2 assignments. So for that final assignment, you're going to create a short story. Remember that all stories, period, have a setting. What's a setting? A setting is just the place where the story events happen. It could be outdoors, such as in the woods or by a beach or in the city streets. It could be inside a building, such as a home, a school, a workplace, a business, or an entertainment facility. Okay? Different stories have different types of settings. The setting of a story also includes the time period, like when it happened. The 3 main time periods are present, past, and future. Sometimes we may be talking about something that seems like a bit of a mixture of present and past, such as a story that's based on an event from 10 years ago, rather than a story based on Egyptian times. But normally we would call that a present tense story. It's not really old. It's still considered sort of current times. And the reason why this matters is because different time periods have different types of transportation or schooling or marriage or jobs, clothing, houses, social expectations, and technology. That's why conveying the time frame can be very important. And like if I'm wondering why a character lost in the woods isn't just calling a friend for help on her cell phone, it would be helpful for me to know, well, the story is set before cell phones existed. So phoning is not even a possibility in a story like this, right? Like when I was first working up here in the north, cell phones were not like a big thing. My cell phone would go dead by about Sault Ste. Marie. And after that, you were just kind of on your own. So in my own lifetime, that's kind of one thing to be aware of for technology. Now, for the culminating activity, there are 5 possible topics you can choose. A trip I will remember, growing up in your community, a scary or frightening experience, a happy occasion or event, and a valuable experience as a student. Take a few moments and think about which topic you're going to want to write about because we're going to use it. It can be a made-up story, fictional, or a true story, which is called nonfiction. We are going to get a head start by thinking and writing about the setting for your story. I just want to note, I know that people will sometimes change their minds between this beginning and doing the actual culminating. That's fine if you change your mind about what story you want to write later on. This is still good practice to learn how to visualize and write about your setting. So this is their alternate assignment. It is worth 10 marks. Here's what you're going to do. Take at least 3 photographs of the possible setting of your story. If your story setting is not near you, you can use some photos from the internet, but be sure to tell me the source of the photo, where you got it from, and the photographer if it's known. And then you're going to include at least 2 sentences describing the setting of the picture using strong adjectives and adverbs. Now, you want to be careful. You don't want to be saying that the picture shows this, the picture shows that. you're kind of trying to practice writing for your story. So you're just going to dive in there and talk about the setting. Let me kind of show you what I mean. Hang on a second. Each photo is worth 1 mark. The 2 sentences are worth 2 more marks, 1 for completion, 1 for quality. So each little section is worth 3 marks, times 3 photo is 9 marks, and then 1 more mark total for naming the source of each photo or drawing. So your 3 photographs should include these 3 perspectives of the setting. A long shot that shows the entire landscape or building from a distance. Like people would be so small, they'd be hard or impossible to see. A medium shot that shows the main setting at a closer distance. People might be close to the size of the picture. You might see them from head or waist to toe. Waist is, I think, a little bit more common from what I was reading. A close-up is going to show a specific item that would normally be quite small, such as a leaf, a phone, a rock, but in the picture it will take up most of the space so you can see the details. People don't have to be in the shots. I'm just using them as kind of a sense of how to measure them. All of these photo shots should reflect the importance and the mood of the setting. So if you put in a close-up of a pen, it needs to be because the pen is a really important part of the story, not just because pens are something you might see in an office and you're planning to write about the office. Note, if you do not have a camera and do not have access to the internet, you are free to draw these shots as well. So here is an example of what I did. Let's say I was choosing to write about a scary story set in the woods in the present time. So this is my long shot. This is one of a forest, and it's taken from Adobe stock photos. So I dive right in. The sky is gray and cloudy with no moon to be seen. The trees lean towards me with curling branches like outstretched arms. So like I don't say in the picture the sky is gray. In the picture the trees look this way. I just dive right in like I'm telling you the story. Okay, that's what I'm aiming for. Okay, this is my medium shot. It's taken from Dreamtime. You can see there's still a watermark. That's fine. That just shows where you got it from. I don't mind that. And then I'm going to dive right into describing it. And I'm connecting it to my scenery, okay? The broken down house I found in the woods had a long unused bed with broken pieces of furniture all around. The toys remained as an eerie reminder of the child who once lived there. And then finally, I've got my close-up. This photo is from Shutterstock. And again, I just dive right in and talk about this part of the setting. Now I'm putting it into context with some of the action, because in real life, you wouldn't like write a whole paragraph of setting, but you would throughout the story give little details that help the reader picture the story. I heard a creak in the night and opened my eyes. I saw the brassy glow on the doorknob glitter and realized it was moving. The door was slowly opening. Do, do, do. Okay, so if you only have 1 sentence, like here I added 3. Let's say I had taken these off and I only had this. Well, right away, you're losing a mark. Let's say you don't tell me it's from Shutterstock. You're losing part of your marks, okay? You want to be careful to put all this stuff in. It shouldn't take you forever. I found it was pretty easy to do this. If you aren't sure how, I'm gonna kind of, hang on, let me do this. I'll just kind of show you what I mean. New slide, blank one. So you can do this from most computer programs. PowerPoint, Google Slides, Word docs, Google Docs, just about any of them will let you do this. Hit insert and it will say pictures. Now, if you have pictures on your computer or your phone that you want to use, like if you are writing a story about your campground and you've got pictures, great, that's awesome. Let's use those. But maybe you don't. So you want to go to online pictures. And let's say my setting is, let's see, where could all the action be? Maybe my office. So I want to find an office. Now, it doesn't have to look exactly like my office, okay? I may want people there or I might not want people there. None of these quite matches what I was thinking of. I'm going to see if I've got like a cubicle or something. Okay, that works more. Now, again, this doesn't have to look exactly like your office. I could pick, maybe that would work. Okay. Now, looking at this, is that a long shot, a medium shot, or a close-up? Basically, it's a medium shot. If there was somebody sitting there, you basically see part of them, but not all of them. Now, I would have to explain why this was important. Maybe I'm sitting here when the story happens. Maybe somebody's chit-chatting me. Maybe this is my boss's office and he's called me in to yell at me, although probably they wouldn't have this kind of a cubicle thing. So you just go and find things. This one tells you it's by an unknown author, is licensed under the Creative Commons. That is good enough. You could just copy that and write that down over here. Okay. So an example would be, it would say, hang on, text. Okay. This is my medium shot. It is by an unknown photographer. I know they use the word author, but that makes no sense. It is licensed under CC by we. That means that it's available to use. It's okay to use it. Okay. And then I would dive in and talk about the settings. So I want to talk about the details, but I also want to get across the overall mood, like the atmosphere. What kind of feelings do you get? Or what kind of feelings are going to be present in the story? So I might say something like, my office cubicle was a boring gray with equally boring gray cabinets. The days were long and the chair was uncomfortable as I sat on it. Okay. So I'm getting across this person's bored. So what's going to happen next? Who knows? It's up to you. It's your story. Okay. If it is not you, like if it's a made up story or if it's a story you're telling, maybe it's something that happened to your sister, right? You might give the person's name like Mona's office cubicle was a boring gray, right? Or you could say my sister's office cubicle. I would say, I think using the word like sister or brother or whatever over and over again will get kind of old. You probably should tell us their name so that you can start to use it. Remember, this is all sort of meant to be a lead-in to the culminating activity, which is coming up. I think we start talking about it by tomorrow. So if you have any questions about this, give me a phone call. Or an email message. I'd be happy to send you, if you want to see this assignment, I'd be happy to send it to you if you don't already have it. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow about how to do the next stuff. Thank you so much.